Okay, so we have the final verse of the week, Acts 1:11. And again, begin by trying to pronounce the Greek if you can. And now I'll give you my sense of it. So we have hoi kai, um, hoi kai apon, andres, galalaioi, ti estekate, blepontes, ace ton uranon, question mark. That semicolon's a question mark. Hutos ho Jesus, ho alemphes, aphumon, eis ton uranon, hutos elucitai, hon tropon, epheasaste, auton, poru omenon, eis ton uranon. Okay, so now see if you can translate it. Okay, so it's kind of weird that that's a relative pronoun if it has the accent. So I was going to say and they said, but with the accent it's a relative pronoun, so it would be who also they said, who also said. That is the men in white, the two angels, we assume. Capital letter means it's a quote. So who also said, men Galileans, why? So this is the interrogative pronoun. Its masculine and feminine form is tis, but its neuter form is ti or t, I suppose, if it's long. And so it can mean who as a question. If it's tis, the neuter form can either mean what or in some cases why. And I think why is the appropriate translation here. Who also said, men, Galileans, why have you stood looking into the sky, question mark. This Jesus, that's the way of saying this Jesus, they put a the with it usually, but this Jesus, who was taken up from you into the sky, thus he will come, which way, in the same way, thus, which way, we beheld him, that way he'll come back, coming into the sky, going into the sky. So which way that you behold him going into the sky, thus he will come, if that makes any sense. Okay, so putting it all together, who also said, men Galileans, why have you stood looking into the sky, question mark. This Jesus, the one who was taken up from you into the sky, in which way you beheld him going into the sky, thus he will come. Okay, so now let's go to the interlinear. We've already done a little bit. They also said, when Kai isn't in the right place for and, we downshift into also or even. And again, I think this is actually who instead of they, because it has that accent on it. If it didn't have the accent, it would be and they said. But with the accent, I'm going to go with who. Who also said, of course, the original didn't have accents or breathing marks. Those have all been added later. So that's interpretive. We could, as if we put our scholarly hats on, we could argue whether it's and they said. Men Galileans, this is vocative because it's addressing them. I already mentioned that. We're going to do parsing on the next slide, but te is a second person plural active ending. Kappa, alpha, indicates perfect tense. Stay indicates histemi, and that's just the way it reduplicates. It's irregular. Sigma reduplications are always a little weird, but I know it's perfect because of the kappa. Why have you stood and are still standing? Perfect tense means completed action with the result the same. Why have you stood and are still standing? Looking, here's a nice little participle. My aunt is an active participle. S is a nominative plural masculine ending. Blep is the present. So that's a present active participle, nominative masculine plural from blepo. We can just keep it as looking. It's kind of complementary. We might say it's a complementary function of the participle. Why have you stood looking into the sky, question mark. This Jesus, demonstrative pronoun, I mentioned that's just the way demonstrative pronouns go with nouns. They put a the. A lot of times you don't translate it in English because it doesn't come out right. Analeimphtheis, this Jesus, the having been taken up one, this Jesus who was taken up. So the parsing of this is on the next slide, but theta epsilon has me thinking aorist passive. It's analambano, the length there is my clue to lambano. It's aorist passive participle. So my rated G translation of a aorist passive participle is having been whatever. Having because it's aorist, and been because it's passive. So having been taken up. So this Jesus, the having been taken up one. So first I do the rated G translation, the ing translation. Then I do the Ken's rule. If it has an article, use a who or a that. It has an article on it. Here's the on it. So I'm going to use who. This Jesus who having been taken up. That's not good English. So I take it to the rated street, the third stage, smoothing out version. This Jesus who has been taken up, or something like that. Okay. From you into the sky, thus he will come. This is the irregular future of Urkamai, as we'll see on the next slide. How will he come? So this is I guess a kind of a accusative or respect, you might say. He will come with respect to the which way you beheld him going into the sky. This, I don't think I have it on the next page, so let me parse it now. Sta is a second person plural, middle or passive. Sigma alpha tells me it's aorist, so that aorist only does middle with this sigma alpha, so it's aorist middle indicative. There's the augment, aorist, second person plural from it's deponent. So it's aorist middle deponent indicative, second plural from the'amai, to behold. So in which way you beheld him going into the sky. We've had this before. Men are passive participles some of the time. Peru omai is deponent, so it's middle in form but active in meaning. Present, because Peru omai, all the letters are there, so it's present, middle deponent participle. Accusative masculine singular, because it's talking about him, which is accusative masculine singular, personal pronoun. Okay, I'm moving rather quickly today, but hopefully this is just review if you know Greek. So I'm sorry for those of you who are trying to learn Greek. I'm not taking the time I maybe should for you, but there's direct discourse here because of the quote. The capital letter tells me it's a quote, direct discourse. Apon, I haven't parsed that yet. So it's irregular from Lego. I just haven't memorized. We've seen it before. Second aorist, we call it. It's irregular. It's aping. It's an aorist ape. New, anese, amen, eta, an, oreson. It's third person plural, active ending. So it's aorist, active indicative, third plural from Lego. Now this alpha here, it can be a Greek at this period could either use an omicron or an alpha there. The omicron is fine, apone works just fine. But, other aorists have an alpha, and sometimes the second aorist got jealous. Why does he get an alpha? Why don't I get an alpha? And so sometimes they did this alternative form where they did an alpha like the normal aorist, but they're not fooling anybody. We know you're a second aorist. Okay. Estekate is perfect. I know I parsed it already for you. It's kappa alpha. It tells me it's perfect, which means it's completed action in the past with the results continuing. You stood and you're still standing. Active, because tes active. Indicative, second plural, tes, second plural from histe me, which is just one of those me verbs. Analeimphtheis, we parse this as well. Theta epsilon tells me it's aorist passive, having been. Ace is just something you memorize the nominatives of the participles have to be memorized. There's a horrible song that Rory Skelly came up with that gives all the nominatives. Lu on usa an amen asamene amenan. Lu sas sasa san samena samene samenan. Lu thes then. Anyway, so I've just memorized this as the nominative masculine singular aorist passive participle ending. There is a video I have with all the songs on it. And then it's from Analambano. You can kind of see the lam bono, lam, there's the lambda, the alpha's lengthened, mu, a beta that's gone breathy because of the theta. So anyway, okay. And lastly, elucitai is the irregular future of erkomai. Future, it's middled in form but active in meaning. We call that deponent. Elusomai is the form. Indicative, third singular. He will come. So there you have it. Sorry, it's a little quick today, but we've finished our weekly quota of Greek.